This tutorial discusses how to identify situations where image and data names don't match, preventing plotting of data. In previous tutorials, we have emphasized that it's critical for your data section names and image section names to match exactly for data to plot. In the past, Corelyzer didn't give you any warning about this situation. Data simply wouldn't plot, which was confusing and frustrating. In Corelyzer 2.1, the graph dialog will warn you when it detects an image data naming mismatch. So we'll demonstrate that here. So I have images loaded for my 2A and 2B holes. And I'm going to start by plotting data on my 2B hole. So I have all that data in a separate file, a 2B data file. It has 34 sections worth of data. And I'm just going to select all my sections and just plot density on these, just as an example. So as you can see, it's plotting on every single section. Looks good. There might be a few core catchers in there that it does not plot on because I don't have data for that, but in general, this looks correct. So that's good. So our B seems to be okay. So now let's go to our 2A data set and plot that data. Now we see some text in red here. It says no corresponding image found for 26 sections. That seems kind of strange, but we will just ignore it, as warnings are often ignored, and select all and plot density on these sections. And as you can see, we're actually getting it to plot just about everywhere, but there's this one pesky section here for which it does not plot. Everything else looks good. So what's going on here? So there are two different things happening here. This one is the more important one, and I'll explain that first. So what's happening is, if we actually, so this section that we're not getting data on is 2A 4H 4W. So if we look in our list of data here and scroll down, oh, interesting. So this one is actually drawn in red, which indicates that is a section for which there is a mismatch. In the data, there is a section named GLAD9 PET06 2A 4H-4, but it can't find a core image on which to plot this data because it needs a core image that has the exact same name. And so you may have already guessed, the problem is the fact that this core section, and this is a very common problem, has a W appended to it because it is the working half, and somehow that extra W snuck in there, whereas it didn't for any of the other images. They don't have an A or a W at the end, but this one did. And so because of that W, which causes it to not perfectly match 4H4, because it's 4H4W, data can't be plotted on that section. So that is why that's not happening. And so in order to correct this, you could do one of two things. You could either edit the data file and re-import it such that 4H4 then had 4H4-W, or you could remove this image and re-import that image, but before doing so, change the file name so that it's just 4H-4 without the -W, because Corelyzer pulls its section image names from the source file names. So that's how you would resolve that situation, but more importantly, that's how you identify the situation. Whereas before, Corelyzer wouldn't tell you anything, it just wouldn't plot it. Now at least it gives you some indication that something is wrong. So any section for which it can't find a match in your data, it's going to draw in red. So that's one section that's bad, but then we have 26 sections according to this for which there's no corresponding image found. So let's scroll down and see, oh, we have a whole lot of red sections here. But the reason for this is a little different, and it's much more innocuous. The reason for this is if we look at our images in 2A, scroll down here, we only have images through core 10H. And so up to that point, everything except for our 4H4W corresponds. But then everything beyond that in this data set can't find a match because there simply are no images. And that might just be a workflow thing. Maybe we haven't yet added images for those cores yet because we haven't scanned them, or for some other reason. So once the corresponding images are added, as long as their names are correct, these should turn to black. This warning should go away, and you should be able to plot data on those cores. So that is an explanation of how the graph dialog at least tries to help you when you're plotting data, explain why data is not plotting. So we hope that's a helpful feature in 2.1. We know this has been a source of a lot of frustration for users in previous versions. So it was one of our goals for this version in 2.1 to improve that situation somewhat. So we hope that helps. Have fun using Corelyzer.